about. Death is swept under the carpet in our culture. In the hospital, they try to keep you alive from utter desperation. They won't take the mockery. Well, of course, we've made death howl with all kinds of ghouls. We've invented dreadful afterlives. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody wants to be in church forever. try to keep you alive from utter desperation. They won't know the mockery. Well, of course, we've made death howl with all kinds of ghouls. We've invented dreadful afterlives. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody wants to be in church forever. dreadful afterlife. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody wants to be in church forever.
Today, I'm decolonizing my 2001 Honda Civic. I started by replacing the hierarchy-promoting headrests for these handcrafted bamboo covers from Malaysia, which increase blood flow and are totally sustainable. Swapped out the capitalist air freshener for a traditional indigenous dream catcher. I then used natural alternatives for odor control, using beeswax candles and nanostay incense. Before recycling any harmful plastics, reading materials, or products associated with whiteness. I then swapped out my palm oil-based snacks for sustainable dried bugs. In order to make the cabin a more equitable space, I deconstructed the seating area into a communal zone, allowing everyone equal access to the controls, without excluding the environment. I then added communal controls to the steering wheel, allowing all passengers a say in the direction of the vehicle without the need for a main driver, and recontextualized the air with the Somali Bakur spray. I then replaced the car's harmful internal fluids with plant-based alternatives, which actually work just as well without destroying the planet. To finish off, I reframed the rear of the car as an activist canvas for all the current things, as well as adding my pronouns for other road users. Not forgetting Trotsky, who was really enjoying the new look.
No wonder the drivers in California are so bad. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings, here to the bestpoliticalshow.com. As of course, we have a lot of crazy news to get into today. As of course, we have the latest news from the U.S. Supreme Court. Mitch McConnell is stepping down. There's some more serious concerns about Joe Biden's health, as Hunter Biden just came out and said that he is totally clean. As of course, we have more crazy updates about the story of the decade that many powerful people want to go away, as it definitely looks like there's a new predator out there. What's really going on here? Well, we're going to be discussing that, plus a lot more, all for the next 2 hours. As of course, there's a lot of crazy stuff developing, and we're going to be breaking it down as it happens for the next 2 hours. So make sure to share this broadcast with your friends and family members. It is really absolutely critically important since, of course, YouTube definitely hasn't been showing us any love recently. So we appreciate you guys getting the word out there, and it's pretty much why I am still here. You see a lot of independent media content creators come and go. There's not a lot of money in this, but the main reason that I am still here is because you guys support me. You guys get this broadcast out, and that's why I can't thank you enough for doing that, as of course you could also directly participate in the conversation by also signing up to lukeunfiltered.com, where you guys get access to a special Telegram channel, and we'll be getting the ability to call in to the show. Unscripted, unvetted questions. You could show us whatever you want. We're going to be on a free speech platform, so you guys feel free to push the limits. Ask us whatever you want. You could do that right now just by simply signing up to, of course, lukeunfiltered.com, as that is going to be, of course, sent into the chat room. So you guys could very easily click on it right now. You get a lot of other things with that offer of value, as well as the ability to participate in the conversation through, of course, Rumble Rants, YouTube Super Chats, and most importantly, mysuperchats.com, a platform that only takes 3% of a service charge and allows your text to actually show up on screen all through mysuperchat.com. As, of course, we also wanted to remind members that we are going to have an in real life meetup this Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. As of course, your memberships help build communities, help connect individuals, and definitely take advantage of that as much as you can. As of course, there's also a lot of different personal updates with Stephanie and her DMs, and some very interesting topics of discussion that we will have to save for later on in this broadcast. Steph is the button pusher. She made sure to click away from that one. I'm going to click back on it just to highlight you some of the very interesting conversations coming here your way. As of course, joining us for this very fantastic conversation is the one and only Tatiana Moroz. I know Tatiana for a very long time, but Tatiana, for the people who don't know you, how would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tatiana Moroz. I'm a singer-songwriter. I've been in Bitcoin for 2,000 years. No, since 2012. I'm an activist.
Satoshi is before us. Incredible.
Yeah. I'm an activist, and I live here in Miami. So
she is Satoshi Nakamoto. I'm telling you, I believe it, right?
Yes, but I wasn't trying to let other people know. So thanks for doxing me, Luke.
Hey, I'm sorry, it happened. If you can't bring up the microphone a little bit closer to you, Clint Russell is here. I was going to make a jab. I was going to be like, oh, look at Clint's car over here. I was like, you know what?
My guard's up.
I'll give you grace of mercy.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I'm in a particularly irritable mood today. Clint Russell, host of Liberty Lockdown, co-host of Tower Gang, which is a show that you should never watch, and the co-host of The Best Political Show, which you should always watch. You should pick up your phone currently, right this second. Pick up your RSS, your favorite little podcatcher, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever. Then you enter Liberty Lockdown, and you enter The Best Political Show, and you hit subscribe. And I continue to remind you, because not enough of you have done it. We've got hundreds of thousands of people watching, but not nearly enough of you are subscribing so that you don't miss an episode. We got Steph on the buttons.
Yeah, some people say talking things out helps to de-stress things. I don't know if that's going to happen today, but we're going to be doing our best here as much as we can. As, of course, Steph, who, by the way, told everyone 2 nights ago, she's like, hey, guys, DM me. We found out last night her DMs were closed. Mike, the guest from last night, opened up those DMs and announced that, Stephanie's DMs were open. And, Steph, how are you?
I'm doing great. You know what? It's so nice to hear from you all. I'm writing back and reading, and there's a lot of messages.
How many new boyfriends you got?
0.
Are they solicitous? Like, are they trying to hit on you? What are these messages about?
No.
Wait. We got to save that conversation for Rumble. Okay, we got to build up some anticipation here. And Stephanie's going to be sharing her experiences through this wonderful connected community that we all have here later on in the broadcast. So you guys have to stay tuned and wait for that particular conversation. As of course, there's a lot of crazy news happening right now. Some of it breaking right now, as the Wall Street Journal just reported that the Supreme Court has agreed to consider whether the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, must stand trial on charges that he allegedly plotted to overthrow the 2020 presidential election. Now, the fact that this has already gone to the frickin' Supreme Court just shows you how ridiculous this is. I think it's pretty clear that if this was an actual insurrection, this was one of the most poorly executed, one of the most disorganized, one of the most dumbest insurrections in the history of all insurrections, as of course it wasn't. It makes no sense at all, but the leftists, the Democrats, the corporate media, the intelligence agencies are running with this, and they're prosecuting Donald Trump. He's facing 750 years. They're trying to get him off the ballot. They're already punishing him when it comes to this upcoming frickin' election, as he is needing now to spend tremendous amounts of money on lawyers, but also, more importantly, time when he should be campaigning, especially in a very close election that I believe is going to be a lot closer than a lot of other people expected it to be. We saw what happened during the 2022 midterm elections. It's just going to be just as tight as, of course, the same way that the powers that be fortified the last presidential election. You could bet your frickin' bottom dollar they're fortifying this one. What do you guys make of this latest news that the Supreme Court will now be hearing this case?
So does that mean that everybody else is going to be able to be prosecuted? Because I think that's the real question, right? If he's going to be held responsible for something that happened during his watch, then other people should also be held responsible for things that happened on their watch, like war crimes. Anwar al-Awlaki, was that his name?
Abdurrahim al-Awlaki.
Okay,
yeah, and
thank you.
Anwar
Who's his
al-Awlaki.
son?
Oh,
There's
okay.
two of them.
Thanks.
There's the son, and then there's the former Pentagon guy who became a radicalized cleric who worked with the federal government and then was taken out by the federal government.
Right.
It's almost as if he had some secrets that they didn't want them to release.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Look, I think that your point's well taken, and it's certainly very important that no one is above the law. Historically, the presidents have been above the law. So I think what's interesting about this one is that Donald Trump is being accused of things that, in my opinion, he is not guilty of, and they are trying to essentially remove him from the political arena entirely, if not remove him from free civil society. And they're obviously successfully going after him to the tune of $500 million. I think that it's very important that the Supreme Court get involved, just simply because I tend to believe that the American people will completely give up on the entire concept of peaceful resolution of our disagreements at the ballot box. If the vast majority of Republicans are adamant supporters of Donald Trump, they very much want to cast their vote for him. If they remove him as an option, I don't think you'll ever bring those people back. I think that they will be radicalized irrevocably. And for that reason, I'm grateful that the Supreme Court is interjecting themselves, because I think that if they come down in the right fashion, then it'll depressurize a lot of what we've been dealing with.
So a lot of people in response to this are saying good news. They're also posting photos of certain justices like Clarence Thomas putting on the sunglasses. And essentially a lot of people are concluding that automatically the Supreme Court will rule in favor of the Republicans, since they are a majority Republican Supreme Court. But as we saw recently with the Texas ruling about the border wall, that it could go pretty much either way, as there's probably some compromise on some of these judges, and there's probably some other forces beyond our control. But to get back to kind of Tatiana's point here, that was my take originally when we heard these charges announced. I remember being on Timcast, and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're charging Donald Trump." And I'm like, could we charge Obama? could we charge Clinton? Could we charge Bush? Could we charge all of them? We'll get, for me personally, this is something that probably a lot of people disagree with here, but I was like, I'll give you Trump, but we got to take Clinton, we got to take Obama, we got to take Bush, all of them, jail, now, immediately. As of course, they all violated the law, violated the Constitution, didn't do what they were supposed to do, took orders from special interest groups, assassinated people, tortured people, and did some really absolutely freaking awful things. And you're going after Donald Trump for what happened on J6? What? Are you kidding me? there's legitimate things that you could go after Donald Trump for that we can't mention here on this particular broadcast. There's legitimate things that we could criticize him on that the corporate media refuses to criticize him on. But really, J6, this is what they're getting him for. Now, we still will be hearing more about this case. There allegedly are surprise tapes. There's surprising evidence. I highly doubt there was any kind of attempt to overthrow anything. This makes no sense at all. And clearly, this is political prosecution. This is the weaponization of the justice system. This is a tragic injustice to someone that I've been critical of. But because they're criticizing him so much, you have to support him because it's absolutely crazy what they're doing to him. And it highlights a really dangerous path that this country is on.
Oh, I think and this is why a lot of people refer to this as anarcho-tyranny. If you apply the laws in an unequal fashion, then you don't have justice. And I think that's what's happening with Donald Trump, is that he's being persecuted and prosecuted for things that are very mundane, if not completely negligible. Whereas we have really egregious war crimes from all of the presidents in my lifetime that go completely unaccounted for. So for that reason alone, it's like a lot of people will say, well, I don't want the Supreme Court to come down on Trump's side and say that, he has presidential immunity, because then we won't ever be able to prosecute all these other people for their war crimes.
Have we ever prosecuted anybody? So in a practical perspective, wait, I want to, how they have the cops, and the cops, they have their immunity as well, right? And I've heard the argument that a police officer in a certain way does need some immunity, because then he would never be able to take these kind of actions. Like sometimes you do have to shoot, right? Is there a case to be made that a president does need to have some kind of ability to break the law, or to have that immunity, like the same way that you would with a police officer?
Well, there's presidential immunity, and they have been doing a lot of illegal things for a very long time. Sorry, Clint, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say they already are granted rights that no other people have, just as the police obviously have a right to carry a gun and go into a public school and do all sorts of things that a regular person can't do. The issue is that they go above and beyond these already granted additional powers that they have. And I think that that's been the issue that, at least from a libertarian vantage point, has been very infuriating, is that you have the right to declare, or not declare war, but you certainly have the right to take life to the tune of thousands by declarations of war via Congress, but you can't. But they won't even do that.
Yeah, we haven't had that for many, many years.
Oh, for 50.
Someone in the chat room said they're not police officers; they're acorn killers. So shouts out to Blood Pillow for saying that in the comments.
In fairness,
section.
I don't think he made contact with the acorn. I'm sure he missed with all 24
he shot
rounds.
a lot. I mean, there's a lot of bullets that he got rid of in his magazine. So probably, he maybe hit something. He definitely didn't hit his target, which highlights, again, just how poorly trained a lot of police officers are, and not well equipped with the skills to actually handle very stressful situations. Tatiana actually took one of the tactical classes that I helped teach here in Southern Florida, and she saw just how difficult it is. Now imagine that kind of stress, because again, if you're a police officer, you're dealing with a lot of craziness, a lot of power that you have. And we see a lot of police officers power trip. Now imagine that like 1,000-fold with presidents who have a lot of power. Of course they're going to power trip. Of course they're going to have a little bit of ego. Trump's ego, I think, is a blessing and a curse. I think it's something that's amazing, but also something that holds him back a lot of the times here. And truly, with him being punished more than ever, they are making him more popular than he ever was before. He wasn't that favorable in the polls until they started prosecuting him. They prosecuted him, and now he's more popular than ever. And now I got to support him, because if they get away with punishing him, they could get away with punishing all of us and everyone in the future. Sorry, go ahead, Tatiana.
But doesn't that just make it kind of suspect? Like they're making it really, really easy to like Trump, and that in itself is kind of weird, right? They're basically setting him up like the underdog hero for everybody, but if you look at his presidency, yeah, there were some good things. I still think he was probably the best president of our lifetimes. Shocker. But
that's
he
not
wasn't
saying
that
much
great
with how
either,
horrible
right?
all the other presidents were.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Lowest
he's
bar
not
imaginable.
that different. I'm not 100% convinced that he's as much of an outsider candidate. I've never been that convinced of it. And now it just seems like he's the hero on the white horse, and anybody with half a brain would go for him. But I don't even know at this point if I believe that any of these elections are real, right? I already thought it was a selection based on what I saw with 2012 and Ron Paul and Mitt Romney. So I don't know.
Preach.
It should be interesting. It should be interesting to see what happens.
Well, there's
with
definitely
this
a lot of
theater.
internal games happening, even with Ron Paul, that according to his own staff members, made a deal with Mitt Romney not to criticize Mitt Romney, and therefore was able to help Mitt Romney gain the nomination. As of course, a lot of people and political commentators said specifically, if Ron was going after everyone if he was specifically going after Mitt like he was going after everyone, Mitt would have been more kind of battered and bruised and wouldn't be as favorable as a candidate as he saw himself being. Now, of course, the establishment also cheated Ron Paul many times, even when he placed favorably and he did really well. They would always just undermine it. They would always kneecap him. They would always lie about him, his stances, his viewpoints, and how much actual amazing grassroots support he had. You were there from the kind of beginning stages of the Ron Paul Lovolution. What kind of sticks out to you that happened then that I think that you think people should know about?
So I got involved in the Ron Paul movement in around late 2011, early 2012, and I was singing all around the country. So for me, this was my first really politically active moment. And I really, truly believed that we could make a difference. I thought it was just so electrifying. You had basically the inverse of the Trump movement. I mean, it was super duper positive, not ragging on the Trump people. But to me, the moment where I stopped believing in America was right here in Tampa. And I remember just being very, very depressed, hearing about how, Ron and Carol left. And I just imagined them being all dejected, walking to the plane all depressed. And there were even over 400 delegates that walked out of the RNC convention. And so that was barely reported anywhere. So now when I hear about fake news and people talking about fake news like it was something that happened with Donald Trump, that to me, it also feels a little bit co-opted, because to me, the fake news was when we would have thousands of people showing up for these rallies and they would report, 100 people showed up. Or when Ron Paul became the 13th floor in the elevator, right? Like nobody could find him on any kind of polls, even though he was doing so well. So I don't know. I guess I've just been very disillusioned with the presidential process. And I think it keeps people enslaved to the idea that this is our only solution. Well, you got to vote harder next time. And I'm surprised that anybody's participating at all after what happened previously. I'm just shocked. And all of this evidence keeps coming out that it was a rigged election and nothing's going on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, there's we have to be careful in what we say here specifically on YouTube, since YouTube is very kind of censorious. So I do believe that this was a quote fair election, but they definitely fortified it, especially with the Zuckerbucks and the media influence and the intelligence agencies that all, of course, had someone that they really wanted to become the next president of the United States, and that they did everything in their power, even though some would say illegally, but they used a lot of legal means in order to galvanize a lot of their larger ballot harvesting and efforts. And even with Ron Paul, I love Ron Paul. He's awesome. He's an incredible human being, but he wasn't perfect as well. We broke that story from a campaign insider inside of his own campaign about him making that deal with Mitt Romney. He was still kind of running, but not running. He dropped out. Rand Paul was still, freaking endorsing Mitt Romney. And that created a situation where I had to ask Rand Paul why he was endorsing Mitt Romney when his father was still kind of collecting money and donations for his presidential campaign. Created a kind of awkward situation. So again, no one's perfect. No one's hands are clean. And this is an individual. This is Dr. No. This is one of the most ethically sound individuals that is absolutely freaking incredible. And again, politics is dirty.
What was the incentive? Why would he make that deal? I don't understand. I've never heard that.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I never heard that one before too. It's interesting.
Yeah. No, we have the YouTube video on our channel.
Do you remember what he was offered?
It wasn't. It was someone within his campaign staff that came out and talked about this, but I believe there was a mutual kind of deal saying, if you don't attack me, I won't attack you.
Oh, okay.
And then many kind of political strategists look back at that deal as a deal that kind of solidified Mitt Romney to become the front runner, to become as powerful as he was. And it was a mixed bag, that Republican kind of primary.
The reason I was asking is because, like, if it was to keep Rand in the Senate, or I don't even know when Rand got into the Senate, maybe it was before. But if it was to like help him get into the Senate, I'd be like, all right, that's the trade that I
he
probably.
he was already in the Senate.
Oh, he was, okay.
And then he endorsed Mitt Romney, which was like,
Yeah.
No,
right
I wrote
after
a song
Mitt
about
Romney,
it.
right after the Bilderberg group meeting, and I'm like, wait, hold on, what's going on here? I asked some questions, and then it got a little tumultuous between me and Rand Paul, as Rand Paul then tried to fire my at the time girlfriend from her job in Washington D.C. because of that confrontation. So yeah.
Politics are filthy, man.
That's some insider tea there for you guys here. But I'm just bringing this up because I just want to talk about this kind of political circus that a lot of people kind of deal with, that a lot of people go through. It was Doug Weed that we specifically interviewed, a part of the Ron Paul campaign. And if I remember correctly, he kind of threatened Ron Paul, saying, we're going to really attack you with this and this unless you stop attacking us, don't attack us. And then they made that kind of deal. I wonder what kind of deals Donald Trump is making, as of course they are kind of trying to position him in a situation that's not winnable. It's either he spends hundreds of millions of dollars on lawyers, or he goes to jail. And when you have that kind of situation, you have leverage over the president of the United States, because you could say, hey, we're very powerful people. We have compromise on this judge, on this prosecutor. We could just say this could all go away if you just approve this big pharma protocol or regulation that we want passed or not passed. And that's essentially what really kind of happens within Washington, D.C. A lot of powerful people kind of play their hands in very sinister ways to, of course, go against the best interest of the voting class, of the general public, which is absolutely infuriating, because this is why we can't have nice things. I asked the chat room on YouTube specifically, will the Supreme Court rule in favor of Trump? And 65% of the people in the YouTube chat room said yes. 35% said no. So it's going to be interesting, as of course it does look like the Supreme Court will hopefully be backing Donald Trump. But with the way that this year has been kind of unfolding, anything and everything could happen.
Do you think that's why Nikki Haley's still hanging around? Because she's so detestable.
Yeah.
Oh, no, 100%.
She is the neocon warhawk vulture, just waiting to eat at the corpse of the MAGA movement and to have her frickin' meal. So, sorry, go ahead.
That should be pretty interesting to see. Because, I've heard she just has a ton of money behind her, but I've never heard a single person say anything nice about her anyway. So, I don't know what
no
she's
one that's
still doing
sane
there.
has anything nice to say about Nikki Haley. But there was, I believe it was the Kochs that withdrew their funding after South Carolina. So I think the gravy train is running low. But it's clear to me that she's doing it, as Luke described it, as the vultures circling over MAGA as they're stumbling through the desert looking for Donald Trump's special brand of water. But
bloodthirsty vulture demons is, I think, a more accurate description of Nikki Haley. But she probably sacrifices a lot of small entities for larger satanic evil powers that she wields.
I won't go there. We'll save that part for Rumble. But yeah, I think that clearly she is the fallback plan if the deep state manages to remove him as an option. But I think also for her, it's just as much about financial angling, that she'll get on, yet another board of Boeing or Lockheed or whatever.
No babies are safe near that vulture. I'll just leave it at that.
Allegedly,
maybe. But in a video game, right?
Yes.
As of course, we also got other breaking news of this tortoise looking like creature. That, of course, being Mitch McConnell, who just announced that he will be stepping down from the Senate Republican leadership this November after this upcoming presidential election. His face says it all. He is tied to, of course, international drug trade and trafficking. He is the corrupt of the corrupt. He is an individual that has sold you down the river And finally, the old wicked witch is gone, and not soon enough. As, of course, I said, even with my drama, even with my own personal beef with Rand Paul, I said on social media, good, replace him with Rand Paul as, of course, the new leader of the Republican Party in the U.S. Senate, because who else are you going to pick there? Do you guys have any picks? I don't.
There's no one that's better than Rand in terms of a plan B here. But Mitch McConnell, people forget too, but first, I think it was the first 2 years of Donald Trump's presidency, they had a Republican Senate, Republican Congress, and McConnell got nothing done. I mean, this dude is as in opposition to the kind of populist small government cabal of voters as any of the Democrats. I mean, just an absolutely reprehensible human being. And his priority forever has been funding the military-industrial complex. So the fact that he's bowing out in November is disappointing. As Luke said, it's not soon enough, particularly given that the man hard resets, his mind hard resets mid-conversation half of the time. He will literally just like go blank and shut down, and he'll have a handler come and pull him off the stage.
Isn't it weird how all this keeps happening, though? Like, all of our political
Is it weird? They're all 80.
I mean, yeah, but you'd think that they would hide it a little bit better. I mean, people are making fun of us so bad because of Joe Biden's mental state. You know, he's walking around. Obviously, everybody knows what's wrong with him at this point, right? But now we've got Mitch McConnell. We've got all these different people. It's just pretty disgraceful. I would say that basically most of them must be compromised for this to keep going on, though. I mean,
Of course.
Absolutely, like Coke. I can't even say.
90%
Yeah, I can't
maybe?
even say what Mitch McConnell was connected to on this YouTube channel. As I mean, that guy, he's connected to the Chi-Coms. He's connected with international trade of illicit illegal items. He's really just one of the most awful human beings on the face of this earth. And I don't like to say that about many people, but Mitch McConnell absolutely deserves it. As of course, this is some of the reaction from the news of his final frickin' retirement.
So I stand before you today, Mr. President, and my colleagues, to say this will be my last term as Republican leader of the Senate. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon.
Now, I don't know, if that's real or not. I think it is, but I'll let the internet be the judge here. As of course, finally stepping down from leadership. His leadership was awful, especially with the latest moves that he made with the defensive budgets for Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan that he tried to sell as a frickin' border bill. This guy has no frickin' way to save face after the egregious actions that he just committed against the American people.
And as I mentioned just last night, the whole reason that he did that was because they wanted to give the Biden administration an out. They wanted to give them a talking point of defense that, look, we came to the table and we got a bipartisan border defense bill passed with Mitch McConnell. And it was Congress that didn't want to defend your borders, MAGA. It's just a lie. But McConnell knew exactly what he was doing. He knew it would never pass in the House, and he put it up. He put it up because he wanted to give the Biden administration a defense because he has been as antagonistic towards Donald Trump as anybody else.
The guy is frickin' 82 years old. I'm pretty sure at this point in time, what the deep state is doing is they're literally going into elderly homes and they're like, okay, this guy's really senile. Let's put him as a frickin' senator. Let's put him in positions of power because then we could just do whatever we want. And then these old geezers won't even know what the frick is going on. As, again, the responses here from everyone are pretty telling. Lots of people saying 10 years, too late, but good anyway. Another person said, can November be tomorrow? Yes. And another person said, the turtle is done. Absolutely. And
here comes the hare. The hare is going to win this one. Thank goodness.
Who's the hare?
Hopefully it's
the
Rand.
tortoise and the hare.
Yeah, it was a joke.
The pause button here on his face when he just kind of splurged out really just tells you.
No,
about
that video
the
is
state
not
of this
actually
country.
paused, Luke. That's just him. That's how he looks
I
half
know.
the time.
I don't know. It's,
Dial up internet, trying to figure out what's going on right now.
I seriously though, like to your point about why is it that we keep having these incredible these octogenarians that come across that their minds literally shut down mid conversation and stuff, and how it's so embarrassing to the rest of the world. I think that just as our empire is long in the tooth, so is the political class. the only way they can maintain their stranglehold on power is to have the dirtiest, the people who have been doing this for decades, that have so much, that are so compromised, that have so much, so many skeletons in their closet. This is why they can't ever turn to the younger generation of Democrats or Republicans, for that matter, is because those people still have some semblance of idealism. They still have some semblance of belief in this country and the future. So I think that's why they keep force feeding us these incredibly corrupt old people.
I thought that they are supposed to get that special magical potion that makes you younger that they get from their friends that are still in school.
Tatiana is base as hell.
I feel like but this is what I'm saying. Like
they
maybe
take
that
the
doesn't
babies
exist.
and then they scare them and then they do other things to them.
I was trying to
And
be really discreet because we're not.
I'm discreet too. Just don't say it. I know what you're
all
saying.
I'm saying is that I thought that they were supposed to act young and be all rejuvenated, and I don't know.
Look, when you
or are they out of supply?
Well, I mean, there's a reason that they would be out of supply. I'm not going to go that route. But I think that the truth is that being one of the worst people in human history probably takes a toll on you at some point.
Hey,
So,
that island has been shut down for quite a while. It could explain why there might be a shortage of that secret sauce that they've
that's
been.
the only
that they've been.
island. Give me a break.
that
no,
they've
that's the
been
only
on.
one.
The only one
That's
in
the
the
only
whole
one.
world. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean,
See, I
Case
only
closed.
had one. It's amazing.
hey, if it's good, why get rid of it or why try to duplicate it? If it's consistent, it's there, and it's easy. So
It was a one-time thing.
yeah. It's not like they're gonna ever do it again.
They got rid of Epstein and they got rid of Maxwell, and there's no. They don't have
Case
any. They don't
closed.
have any clients. It's
Those clients are all probably repenting.
Of course.
Very, very sorry.
Seeing as they all face justice, why wouldn't they repent, right?
Yeah, they probably all just punish themselves. They probably feel really bad, and they don't need any kind of law or intervention when it comes
their
to
own
their misdreavation.
I bet
conscience
you-
is a punishment.
I bet you, as penance, they've gone into Haiti and they're creating orphanages and
They're probably really trying to help all the karmic negative energy that they
Jesus, it's dark.
created. So, but that's true.
It's so
As
dark.
a-
We have to make light of it. Otherwise, I'd lose my mind.
But yeah, and that's why we have a president that is known for terrorizing his daughter in the shower. That, of course, being Joe Biden, who is at the age of 81, as he is set to have his physical, as, of course, there's a lot of people who have a lot of specific concerns about his mental well-being, as Biden's doctor now have concluded that there's, quote, no new concerns. There's nothing to worry about. The doctor officially said through the White House, the physician of the president said, quote, he continues to be fit for duty and fully executes all of his responsibilities without any exemptions or accommodations. Yeah.
So wait, if you wear a diaper, does that count, or that's okay?
Karine Pierre Jean-Claude Van Damme actually said he gets tested every single day and he's passing with flying colors. I mean, it's so hilarious. But here's the
If
reality.
you're getting tested every single day, that should leave some room for concern here.
No. But she meant it as in he's being tested because he's doing the job every single day and he passes every single day because he's so good at his job. Here's the reality though. Joe Biden is not the person that's in charge. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know why
they
we
lowered
care.
the standards of his actual job. It's more look pretty, turn
Does he
that
look
way.
pretty?
Do your best to walk to the right
Look
podium.
sentient, Joe. Look alive.
Exactly.
Keep away from the kids, Joe.
There's no new problems. He's doing it just right.
Stephanie has
Stop sniffing.
Stephanie has the opposite problem of all the politicians. She likes them older, not younger.
What?
You just said the president of the United States looks pretty.
Oh, I see.
Get it?
You got a crush on old Daddy Joe?
What?
She's too old for him. Come on.
She's too old. She's too old for him. That's a good point.
Made a lot of jokes there that flew over the head of a lot of people there.
my
But
goodness.
this is pretty damning. This is pretty crazy. I mean, he's 81. Trump is up there in years too. But for this report to say that he's active, that he's robust, that he's fit to serve, when the guy barely is able to speak, he's barely able to walk, the guy shuffles around.
He couldn't
literally
campaign
shuffles.
4 years ago. He didn't campaign.
But
he just was in his bunker.
But they specifically didn't test his mental faculties. That's part. They're like, yeah, we don't need to test that.
He passed.
I think you might.
Karine Jean-Claude Van Damme Pierre said that he passes every single day.
Well,
Case closed.
She's also
Just
very
like that island.
qualified, and she's definitely there because of her skills and not
Yes,
because of her
exactly.
being a carpet muncher and of a specific race and identity. You know, she's absolutely there because of her credentials. She
I thought you were indicating that her and Kamala had a thing going.
Let's start that rumor.
Listen, Kamala gets
You
down.
heard it here first.
All right, Kamala is known to get down, so I'll just
But
I'll
she's
just
like
leave
a
it at
social
that.
or like a climber. You know what I mean? So she's looking to go up.
I thought
not
she was a
down.
kneeler, but you call her
Oh.
climber.
You
whatever.
know, she started from the bottom.
Now she's here.
Speaking of Drake.
and then Montel Williams helped her get to the top.
Can you imagine social climbing off of Montel Williams into the vice presidency of the United States? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. How did that happen? So weird.
Well, yeah. Well, Willie Brown too. That's another one. A guy who was given warnings and told not to fly in
I
September.
wonder how his wife felt about Kamala being the second or the first vice president. You know what I mean? Like, was she like, oh wow, she really made it since those old days when we used to wrestle around for my husband? You know,
Wait, which lady?
Willie's
Willie. Yeah.
wife. Like, what was she think seeing
Ooh,
Kamala
interesting.
making it all the way over?
yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that they probably split up at some point. Or maybe I don't know, maybe she didn't mind sharing her husband.
honestly,
She's like, get him away.
I forgot that he was even married.
They probably
Yeah.
met at the Eyes Wide Shut club, and they're like, "Oh, well, this happened. The dirty Kamala dog's in there. She's in the corner doing her old tricks
we're
again."
pushing it today.
Well, family-friendly show here. You got to know some references in order to get some of the jokes here. So
True.
I think we might be okay on that end specifically. As of course, I have a lot of other things to say that I can't say that I'm censoring myself on, especially when it comes to other examinations that might be happening to Joe Biden that we can't mention here on this particular
T-minus
broadcast.
22 minutes until we get to tell the truth. Hang in there, folks.
Yes, it's not easy. I have to do this whenever I'm on Timcast. It's so freaking frustrating because I gotta bite my tongue half the time, and it's good because I don't host the show, and I get to kind of cognitively think, okay, how am I going to say this without actually saying this? How am I going to allude to this? How can I make any kind of reference? And it's difficult. It's hard and it's frustrating. And every time the show ends, my brain is just wrecked. And I'm like, I need sugar. I need to feed my mind as soon as I can. And you see the difference. You really do see the difference. And a lot of people are like, why are you on YouTube? Well, I think it's important for people to see the difference because I understand the game. I've been on YouTube for a very long time. I've been on YouTube for, what is it, 2006, 18 years now, which is a long time. Even before YouTube existed, I was on Blip, and I know how the games run, and I think it's important for people to see the stark difference when it comes to being stifled and then being able to fully kind of freely speak and say whatever you want. As again, I want to get in there like Biden's doctor gets in there for his old age health related to his. Again, I can't say it. I'll save it for later. As of course, the information. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you if you think David Icke is right about Elon. I know you guys.
I love this subject.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Because I'm of the opinion that, well, I certainly don't trust Elon. I think that David Icke's read of him has been overly harsh. You know, the guy did put up $50 billion to get X, or Twitter at the time, and now open it up to people like me that were otherwise being suspended every single week. It felt like it has.
That doesn't mean you can't be a little skeptical. Like,
Well,
even
I
if
just
someone does
said I am
good
skeptical.
things, like, yes, he's allowed you to have a platform and all this stuff, but I still think it's important to keep a watchful eye.
I agree, but my point is David Icke is going the opposite direction. He's saying every single thing he's done that has been even slightly positive for the dissident community,
Correct.
like
Continue,
us,
yeah.
he says it's all a lie. It's all a front.
It's possible.
It's all-
It is possible.
Well, I agree it's possible, but like, how can you have that conclusion definitively?
It's just a matter. Well, maybe he wants to have that conclusion definitively. I saw some other posts about some things that were quite questionable, like a carousel and little children, and him saying that like a pole inside of a horse is like crazy, going around in a circle.
Wait,
like
what?
that's literally what David Icke said, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm trying to,
David
trying to
Icke has
understand
said a
this
few
one.
interesting things over the years.
But okay, maybe he is very definitive on it, but I'm just saying it's important to keep that open. Like the possibility that
course.
he isn't amazing is real.
No, I'm not. I'm
for
not.
Elon.
But I'm not even taking the Elon is amazing route. I'm just saying there has been some things he has done that I just don't see how you can't see them as positives. Like, it has
But
put so
aren't
much
those, like-
pressure on YouTube to decrease the censorship apparatus because so many of these creators are starting to put more and more of their content on X and Rumble. It's
Look,
like, that's
how
a good
about
thing.
this? It's a good thing for getting all of the patriots on board with his Neuralink.
I don't think anyone's going to be taking his Neuralink.
I mean, who knows?
People
Maybe
who are aware.
someone's
Can you
gonna
imagine
be,
the Trump supporters just drinking Bud Light and get their brain chips in? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah, the Bud Light boycott is still continuing, even though Dana White, Donald Trump, and Kid Rock are telling everyone to drink Bud Light. So, again, skepticism is becoming more popular than ever, and this is why I keep talking about the larger kind of bigger next event being subverted, and probably a trick on a lot of the people who are already skeptical, as the skeptical people are growing. And I think there might be some kind of other things at play here that we should consider moving forward. But I actually made a video specifically about this very topic. If we could trust Elon Musk, if we could trust Tucker Carlson, if we could trust Joe Rogan. I made that very specific video today for members of LukeUnfiltered.com. And I don't mean just to plug LukeUnfiltered.com, but I already had this conversation for my members.
Sure.
And, I'll just kind of summarize it as quickly as I can, because I gave my bullet points to why I believe my thesis and my kind of conclusion on this. But you got to celebrate your victories. You always judge a man by the fruits of their labor. You don't put any man above yourself. You keep moving forward, and you commend the people that do good stuff. And I'll just leave it at that. Watch the full video. If you're a member, definitely go check it out there. As of course, you should be skeptical of anything, everything. But at the same time, if you're just a doomer, black pillar all the time, you're not going to get anything done. You're not going to be ever successful, and you're going to, of course, just be in a circle of negativity, hatred, paranoia, delusion that doesn't achieve nothing.
The bigger point I was trying to make is that there are only a handful of hyper wealthy people on the planet. There's a very small percentage of those very small percentage of people that will actually endeavor to expel or expend some of that capital on things that might help humanity. I feel as if Elon has done that. And now that's not to say I trust him, but I'm just saying that if you're going to immediately condemn him and say controlled op, he's just trying to create the, Skynet, why would anybody else with resources ever endeavor to assist us in this fight?
That's a great point.
Because it's also very easy to say everyone's a psyop, everyone's controlled.
Exactly.
It's not very easy to get into the fight and actually build and do stuff. And
Right.
David Icke has been extremely negative as of late. I reached out to him because I know him. I personally hung out with him. I've done a lot of videos with him. I like him, and I was like, dude, let's hash this out. Let's talk about this. And he hasn't answered my emails or my DMs now, and whatever. He doesn't owe me anything, but it's been disappointing seeing his kind of decline in negativity. Sorry,
Yeah.
Steph, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say to your point, Clint, that you're right. Like, we shouldn't be just I just feel like it's important to keep an eye open, and that these people, like, for example, Elon Musk, he has choices. He has power and choices.
Right.
And so he can go either way, any way he chooses.
Yeah.
And so
we
let's
should
keep an eye on it.
Not just an eye, but keep the pressure on. I agree with you. Like, we need to maintain the pressure to make sure that he doesn't allow X to become the FBI cutout operation that it was just a few years ago. And it's TBD. Like, will he prove himself to be someone who's actually on the side of humanity, or is he going to be using that lane and that market demand to try and become more and more powerful and wealthy? We'll see.
I mean, most of his clients are governments, right? And doesn't he
Yes.
have a big deal with the Chinese government? So why would he want to be on the side of the people? I'm not fully on the Elon train. To me, I just don't see how you can have this one incentive and have such strong ties with these large governments, and then at the same time be a free speech person.
Well, see,
I think he
you don't
lets
become
some
the
speech. And then other speeches also, it remains, you've got to let everybody's like frustration out a little bit, right? So you put it out in this little section and in this, but don't put it here. And I feel like that might be the case there.
Well,
but
that's David Icke's
remains
argument
to be seen.
for sure. But I just think that there's no way you become the wealthiest person in the world without having major government ties and contracts, because the governments of the world are the biggest that they've ever been in human history. So it's like, if you're going to be the richest person, you're going to be involved in the government. And let's be honest, Elon's not the wealthiest. It's probably Putin or maybe even Zelensky at this point. Who knows?
Or the Rothschilds, or the Rockefellers.
Right. It's the people
and all
that
the
we
other secretive banking families,
Right.
and even more secretive banking families that we don't even know about.
Yeah,
that hide their wealth.
but they all have a monopoly thanks to the government, which has given them the capacity to print money and set interest rate policy. So it's like I just think that people should keep an open mind. And the reason I'm saying this is because I am someone who didn't have to get involved with this. I was an entrepreneur. I decided to go this route. And I'm just like, if you make it so toxic in the freedom-oriented community that anybody that has resources that gets involved and you just immediately point at them and you say, I know exactly what you're about. And I know you're
not anyone though. This is somebody who's overseeing one of the largest like news platforms in the world who wants
Now.
to have financial control, who wants to go on with his Neuralink stuff. I mean,
everything out.
Come on, that guy's super sketchy. I mean, maybe there's some good things. I've heard him say some, I've heard some interviews where I like what he has to say, but I don't know. Anybody at that
just
level,
simple. We don't
mark.
even have to wrap up if someone's totally good or totally bad, because no one is.
right.
Everyone's imperfect.
Right.
Everyone's a human being. You compliment and commend them when they do good stuff. You criticize them when they do sketchy bad stuff. It's
What
just,
about the
just as
lizard
simple.
people? Are they human beings that also deserve?
I don't know. Ask Clint.
We need
Clint.
David Icke over here.
you got to ask David Icke about that one. I don't know.
David Icke.
I'm sorry, Clint was a Nephilim. For full correction,
Yeah,
he is
I'm
not a lizard person. I'm maybe Steph could be a lizard
Are
person.
you
tall
kidding
White Walker.
me?
Steph's pretty tall. Steph is like
Yeah,
six.
I am
Steph is like
tall.
6'2". So I could see. I
am
could see like the
tall.
lizard
I'm not
part.
6'2" though.
Sorry, 6'3".
7'2".
6'3". Anyway, when it comes to criticizing the power establishment, very few powerful people do it. One of them that did it recently is MrBeast. He actually came out and tweeted, quote, "It's a little sad that an active member of Congress can cause billions of dollars of stocks to shift like this. It is almost not absurd.
It is
that-
also not.
It is also not absurd that the people that make our laws and know classified information can trade on the public market. The fact that they get intel before the rest of America and are constantly tempted not to make millions off of it, just a situation we shouldn't be putting them in, and seems stupid to me. I'd be all for paying them more and they not be able to invest or some other solution."
So
As of
Strickland?
course, no, this is MrBeast, specifically talking about Nancy Pelosi, a tweet that, of course, he deleted. He got rid of this particular tweet after sending it out to the general public as Ashley St. Clair is connecting the dots and saying that maybe he connected it since there's a connection with Nancy Pelosi's nephew, who works as a talent manager for MrBeast's agency. As, of course, the Pelosi's, the Clintons, the nephews, the politicians, all of them, they all get jiggy with it at the Eyes Wide Shut parties, but also more importantly, they're all in larger positions of power, and they do shut people up from criticizing them. Of
course.
So what happened here with MrBeast, I think, is something that he was getting very close to. I think he's someone that a lot of people pay attention to, but I think he's also someone that they go to and be like, "Hey, shut up. Just make those stupid videos and know your role." And they probably do threaten his assets, his channel, and his ability to be promoted on YouTube like he is, because he's promoted everywhere. He's trying to make a little transition over to Twitter, which is interesting, and that might be because of some existential kind of threats or pressures being put on him. What do you guys think?
I don't think he deleted it because Nancy Pelosi's nephew works there. I think he deleted it because he knows that if you... first off, what he was saying is obviously true. I mean, it's absolutely insane that people that write and pass legislation are able to front run the news and trade on it to make themselves extraordinarily wealthy. So that ought to be illegal. It's not. It's insane. So what he said was true. The reason he deleted it, though, I don't think it has anything to do with Pelosi's nephew, because it's just so obviously the case that in the position that he's in, it behooves him tremendously not to get into the political fray. Just continue to make these feel-good, silly, extraordinarily high-budget, 10 to 20-minute videos and make yourself crazy rich. So I think that's why I deleted it, is that I don't think he needed any exogenous pressure. He's just like, yeah, I told the truth there. That was a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's obvious what's going on with them. They had that Pelosi tracker for a while. I think they disabled it at one point. Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing, but I feel like it's just par for the course.
Well, there were stock traders that were giving off tips. Just stuff. They were given the trades that politicians were making, and they were specifically targeted, attacked, and censored because their stock trades were way better than all the other professional stock traders out there, and they had to nip it in the bud. And
wait, can I employ that technique? Like, is there a way that any regular person can follow?
But you
is
can't,
that open?
You can't front run it though. Like
Yeah,
you
I
can
can see after
you can
the
draft
fact.
after them. You can get behind their vehicle, but there's no way you can know before they actually place the trade, which is obviously totally insane. I mean, and we're talking about trillions of dollars of spending that the federal government's responsible for, and these people know where it's going to go because they're going to vote on the bill, and then they will just invest in these companies that are going to get billion-dollar contracts, and then the stock price doubles or triples, and then they end up making a fortune. It's crazy.
As the reporting comes out, you can't be on top of the trading like they are.
Right.
So they're able to make a crap ton of money, and the amount of money that these politicians make, the jobs that they get, the amount of just assets that are thrown at them. It's absolutely crazy here. As I kind of agree with MrBeast, even though I loathe all these Congress members. I think paying them a little bit more might actually help the situation, as of course they wouldn't be looking at all these other kind of nefarious ways to make money. If you look at what happened with Carrie Lake.
Are you serious, dude? Come on, dude. You really think that these people are good people? If they were making an extra $30,000 a year, they would stop being greedy bastards that'll make $35 million after their career?
No, they're devil worshippers, and they
I
probably
mean,
are
sorry,
sociopaths.
I'm not giving them any kind of like. I maybe like 3% of them are halfway decent people. They're like, oh, I wish I made 20 extra
2%.
thousand.
But the few people that don't sell out, because there are a few of them, they at least would be a little bit more comfortable. But again, I don't like these people. And
I'd rather
it's
they all be
controversial.
prosecuted.
I rather all of them. I rather term limits. If we're going to be asking for anything, give them term limits.
See,
like,
I
you're only
actually
there for
disagree
like
with that.
Yeah,
Really?
there's
Why?
a case to be made against term limits because then you can kind of put through things because you're not accountable to having to be voted in later.
Exactly.
So you can do kind of wild stuff and be like, I don't care what you guys think.
Like,
I'm out of here next year anyway.
I understand the counter argument that Luke is about to make
Sure.
in that obviously Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden and all these other scumbags that have been doing it for decades after decades, and Pelosi, my God. But it doesn't change the fact that, like, yeah, you have Ron Paul, you have Massey, you have Rand Paul, like they're the handful that are really, really good. Obviously, you don't want them to be kicked out, and the truth is that it's a time preference issue. If you have a very short duration in power, well, then you're going to have an extraordinarily high time preference. So you're going to do whatever gets you wealthy as fast as possible. So there's a very fair argument to be made that the corruption would actually skyrocket because people only have 2 terms and then they're out of there.
I mean, we already have record corruption. We already have the politicians that are selling.
It
us
can
out
always get
to-
worse.
Is there any way to go back?
I don't think it can. I'll be honest, I don't think it can get worse. I think it's pretty awful now.
Yeah.
And, I mean, a lot of people make this kind of argument here that I'm kind of, susceptible to kind of trying to understand and kind of believing. But what we have now is absolutely broken. I think it's also unfixable in some ways. And, hey, I mean, we're spending money left and right on all these crazy, outrageous things. And, I do have this naive point of view. Maybe if they don't have to, rob and steal money from everyone else through the special interest groups, maybe if they have a little bit, maybe that'll be enough for them, and it probably won't be because they're money hungry human beings who want all of it themselves.
I'd be fine with paying them each $1 million a year if they could never ever make another dollar again from doing anything other than honoring their constituents' demands. Like, fine. That honestly, that would be better. Like, if you make their salary $500,000 a year and it's a pension, and like you get in there, you do it for 8 years, and then you're out, but you can never make another dollar doing anything. And if you do, you go to prison forever. Like, there has to be some way.
And they have to work in community service afterwards.
Yes,
after their political
perfect.
careers, you have to
they
work.
become indentured servants.
Yes.
Or
Send them on the island, not the island that you're thinking about. Send them all on one island. Just leave them there. And let them at it. Let them have fun.
Let me ask you guys a question. If we had Trumpy win, who's I guess the least terrible of all the options, and let's pair him up with Vivek, who I would think would be the best VP option, right? Is there any way in hell of turning this Titanic around at this point?
Yes, it is possible, but it would require a willingness of self-sacrifice that I simply do not believe Donald Trump possesses. He would have to risk everything.
The debt is so high that it's almost irreversible. And the financial calamity and the financial damage that has been caused might be irreversible. Because even if you tax the world's richest people, it won't make a dent into the debt. So when looking at this kind of situation, it's a very difficult one because there's a lot at stake here. There's a lot of special interest groups. There's a lot of powerful people. I think there is a way of rolling things back. It won't be perfect, but I don't think it's going to happen within the next 4 years. Maybe if we're on a good trajectory within the next 12 years, there's a possibility of having a little bit of a better future rather than the actual dystopian, technocratic, absolutely demonic hellscape that we're on right now. And I think that future is worth fighting for, and I think it's important to be optimistic at this stage in the game.
Yeah, I mean, let me preface this by saying it's not going to happen. But since I'm running for vice president, I do have the answers on how you could do it. The only answer is to grow our way out, and the only way you could do that is to deregulate the American economy on a scale that we've really never seen before. If you were to do that, I think that the American ingenuity could actually create a GDP explosion that would be, with mild taxation, you could probably unbury yourself from the incredible amount of debt that we're under.
Okay, I'll buy that.
There's no chance that it happens, though. So, yes and no.
What about do you guys think that Milei is going to be successful? Because everybody looks at Milei and they think, oh, the libertarian Lord and Savior of us all. I have some Argentinian friends who gave me some perspective stating that he would have quite a bit of pushback because he, of course, is not, king. He has other people that he needs to work with. He has been getting a lot of attention. Do you think that that's legit? Is that real? Are we going to see an actual change in Argentina? Would that influence us here?
He's fired a crap ton of bureaucrats. He's fired a crap ton of government workers. I'm happy. That's a win. Planting the flag here. We won. Yeah. Afuera. All those bastards. I'm done with them. And let's give it a try. It's going to be very telling to see the attacks against them, the counterattacks. But when looking at El Salvador, the model there is clear. It's possible. And what El Salvador has done has been pretty incredible, pretty awesome. Coming from a place that was extremely violent, extremely dangerous, to now a place that I'm looking at as a place to not just visit, not just a vacation to, as of course Max Kaiser and Stacey are like, come on down, come visit, come set up a second base here, maybe. Or maybe even in Argentina. We have the Javier Milei action figure right behind us, by the way, if people are curious to how the wall is behind me, the updates that we've been making to it.
Can people buy that from your store?
No.
It's a one of a kind.
It's a one of a kind.
We will be auctioning it off for $1 million.
Maybe. That sounds like a great idea.
With enough inflation.
Or to members of lukeunfiltered.com.
There we go.
I think that would be cool. Then more people sign up, then we could be independent, then we don't need advertisers, and then we could be fully independent and then actually be able to express ourselves and not need to be on YouTube and then go to Rumble, which we're going to be going over in just 1 minute right now. Clint, hold your thought there for a little bit there. As of course, we now will be making that transition over to rumble.com/WeAreChange. If you want to find us, if you don't want to type in /WeAreChange, just go to rumble.com, scroll down a little bit, and we are here on the picks category right next to the Dark Horse podcast, right next to Jimmy Dore. We are live right now, and if you're watching on Facebook, on Kick, on Twitter, or YouTube, or anywhere else, right now is the time to go over to rumble.com and to support the free speech platform that is standing up for independent content creators. It is more important than ever, as of course we have a lot to say about P. Diddy and this wild photo of another party animal that he was hanging out here. We have so much to say about this particular photo. We have so much to say about this particular situation Then again, absolutely not family friendly here on YouTube. So, of course, we are going to be saving that conversation all for rumble.com/WeAreChange, where Stephanie will also describe her DMs, and we'll get more into the story of the decade and everything else we can't get into here on frickin' technocratic overlord YouTube. So, make that transition right now, and we're going to be taking callers in about 30 minutes for members of lukeunfiltered.com. Before we move over, Tatiana, for the rest of the audience watching everywhere else, where can people find you and support your work?
Oh, I'd love that. TatianaMoroz.com, and they can find me on X at Queen Tatiana.
At Liberty Lockdown on X, you can subscribe there if you want to support my work, or libertylockdown.locals.com. Liberty Lockdown's the show. I am currently suspended from the YT, unfortunately, so you can find me on Rumble, and I will be doing Tower Gang later tonight. Do not watch it. Steph
WRC on X and Steph WeAreChange on Instagram.
Are you going to be watching Tower Gang tonight?